Hello, everyone. Today, I have a special guest, Dr. Heather Signorelli. She's a pathologist and also she has a successful medical billing business. I heard it hasn't been that long time, but she's making really good progress with her business. So I invited her to be our guest today for our Physician Entrepreneur Mastermind YouTube channel. Um, let's welcome Dr. Heather Signorelli, and you can introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here today. Appreciate you having me on. And like you said, I am a pathologist by background. So I'm actually a triple board certified pathologist. And, kind of started out my career really knowing that I loved the business side of medicine. That was just where my passion was. And started consulting in residency early on, which I was, flying on planes, going and inspecting labs in different countries, to really learning the business side of things, to helping hospitals become more efficient and understand their workflow and their process. And then really after about 24 hours out of fellowship, I was put into an administration role for a couple different healthcare systems. And then that kind of grew where now I oversee the clinical side of a large service line in a large healthcare system. So large number of hospital labs that I kind of work and oversee. And then, like you said, about a year ago, my husband quit his job and opened up a medical billing company, and I help assist him in, the operations of that, and making sure that practices are really understanding what they need to do to thrive and to grow their own practice and to bill appropriately. So
Mhm.
it's been a journey, to say the least.
You know what, Dr. Signorelli, I didn't know about your story of you had an interest in residency in business, and within 24 hours after finishing your fellowship, you started administration role right away. I'm curious. It seems like you had this idea of being a non-traditional physician role. Is there any more story behind how you kind of have that kind of character or develop that kind of character throughout the medical school or residency or fellowship?
Yeah, my mom was a nurse, or is a nurse, I should say, although she's not a
Hmm.
practicing nurse. She got into administration herself, running hospitals, running surgery centers, learning the business side of things, learning the infection prevention side of things, and actually was an executive in a big company, kind of doing that herself.
Hmm.
And I joke that I think I've been soaking up business knowledge from her since I was in
Ah.
utero. And hear topics, when you hear about all of that, and you just it just was interesting to me. And my stepdad, who raised me, was an OBGYN. And
Mhm.
so he, himself ran his own practice. So, he ran
Mm.
his own practice for, I think, 30 years. So I think
Mhm.
between the two of them, just understanding all that comes into play with reimbursement and contracts, and then being in the laboratory space, it's a very heavy regulated space. It does lend itself to really needing somebody who understands the business side. And
Mhm.
as a physician, when you can compare, or can combine, I should say, the clinical piece and the business side of things, to me, I just think the business runs so much better. And so
Mm.
it was just an interest of mine, and I kind of got plugged into some consulting stuff really my first year of residency. And
Oh,
then it just
wow.
kind of grew from there. I think when you start
Mhm.
asking, you're like, tell me more about that, or how can I help with that? And, initially I was not paid, and then I was paid.
Mhm.
Um, and then, those skills just kind of grew to the point when I finished residency,
Hmm.
fellowship, I should say. I had this vision of what I didn't at the time know what it was called, right? I just had
Mhm.
this vision of what I would do. And then
Mhm.
lo and behold, it kind of worked out that way. So
Oh, wow. That's a very interesting. I mean, did you take some courses or any, additional classes during your residency fellowship, or it just kind of you have this inherited talent in one way in the business, it seems like. But is there any particular experience or like a mentors, anything that kind of helps you to go through that direction?
I have had numerous mentors. I would say mentors have been
Ah.
a big part of my my career growth. And, you seek them out, right? I mean, even in residency, I sought out the individuals who were pathologists that were doing what I could see myself doing, that medical directorship, that business side of running a lab. And so I grabbed onto them and like, let me follow you, let me learn from you. And then got put on, committees and stuff that helped me, get more exposure to as much business as I could. I've thought about getting my MBA, but honestly, at this point, I've had so much exposure to it. I'm not quite sure the benefit at this point, maybe at a different point in my life.
Yes.
When those kiddos get a little bit older. But
Mm-hmm.
I think for anybody who's listening, right, if there are things you're interested in, I think the number one thing for my career has been seeking out those individuals who are doing things that you want to do or that you
Mm-hmm.
think you would want to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
going and spending time with them. And that's free, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
as long as there's mentors to teach, you can go and learn. And I spent a lot of my time really early on finding those individuals, seeking them out, sitting with them, learning with them, volunteering to be free labor for them, really anything that I could do in order to learn the skill set I needed to do what I had kind of envisioned. So
So definitely that's the actions that you took to kind of place you in the position that you can grow into the next level of, your entrepreneurship or the business, whatnot. But let's go back a little bit and let's talk about the transition from being in the pathology department and being in the leadership administration role to starting the medical billing business. How did that happen? And
yeah, my husband and I were just seeing physicians who were really struggling. And there was a particular physician in mind that had come and, I had had a conversation with, and he had not received an income in almost 12 months. And
Wow.
that came down to, and it was during COVID, and it came down to
Uh-huh.
a poor billing situation. And he obviously knew about it before that year. It took him a couple months,
Mm-hmm.
figured it out, and then was then trying to correct for it. And lo and behold, I mean, it took time to correct for it. And so
Mm.
we just knew we could do a better job. And with my husband's technology background, he gets that. He's been in operations, he's been in the software world, and so
Mm-hmm.
much of a practice's success is the
Mm-hmm.
software and the billing team, of course, but the software and the metrics and everything. And so that's just grown from there. And I will say it's been interesting. I think we're just not taught enough in medical school about business. And
Yeah,
so
almost nothing.
almost nothing, unless you
Yes,
seek it out, right? Unless you
yes.
like literally go and find it. And so
Mm-hmm.
our big thing has been, how can we educate? How can we help docs understand the
Mm-hmm.
business side of medicine, what metrics you need to be following, what
Mm-hmm.
things you need to be looking at? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really been that's been the joy of it. It's helping
Hmm.
physicians understand, whether they use us or not,
Mm-hmm.
helping them grow their knowledge.
So, I guess the motivation or the pivoting factor or the events was seeing during the COVID, seeing your colleagues kind of struggling with their business, whatnot. I have a private practice, but I have a biller who does that, so I kind of review those ones, but I'm not really into it. I wonder, there's a different part of the business in practice, but you probably can educate me. How much the billing is important, and what do you mean by metrics and all those kind of things? Just a little tip of the, your whole entire business, probably it's about those, but how do you usually approach when you talk to, let's say, struggling physicians or they're not making profits? How do you kind of approach those kind of like a consultation calls?
Yeah, I'm going to quote Dr. Una for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Billing is the aorta of your practice. So,
Okay.
so if your billing is not going well, it's a
Uh-huh.
problem. And so I think
Uh,
there's two things you can think about when you think about finances in a practice, right? There's the
uh-huh.
piece around the billing, right?
Uh-huh.
What are your charges? What are your receipts? What's your patient AR? What's your insurance AR? Like all of that is important and
Mm-hmm.
absolutely critical. Once
Mm-hmm.
you've kind of get your hands wrapped around that, or in tandem, right? You have to then think, how does that then contribute to your overall financial picture, right? Because what's coming in versus what the expenses are going out,
Mm-hmm.
all of that has to make sense, and you need to be
Mm-hmm.
tracking all of it. In an ideal world, you're tracking and trending those things to the point where you can sort of get to a point where you can forecast, right? You can forecast your expenses. You can forecast salary, wages, and benefits versus supplies. You can forecast your receipts. You understand that when people decide, hey, I'm going to take off 2 weeks this month and my claims are going to drop by 50% or 20%. What is that going to do with charges? And then when does that hit for receipts in terms of money coming in the door? And then how do then we manage those expenses? And again, for the listeners, that doesn't need to be the physician. That doesn't need to be, the owner of the practice in the weeds. Although I'm a big proponent in the owner or the physician who owns the practice to at least have that high level view of all of those things that somebody can be putting together for you, but pushing to you once a month. So you can say, okay, what were salary, wages, and benefits? What were my supplies? What was my patient volume? Okay, did I change, did your expenses go down because your volume went down? If not, how do you manage productivity? And so all of that adds up. On the billing side, I think because we're not taught what those metrics mean, it is nerve-wracking. It is intimidating. You're like, I don't want to ask my biller what those mean. I don't want to look like the person who doesn't understand. And that, I get that. I think the hard part is coming to the conclusion that we kind of got to get uncomfortable and got to sit down and go, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet and I'm going to learn one metric a month. And I'm going to sit down with my biller and I'm going to say, okay, these are the metrics I'm going to look at. And I'm going to ask the questions. And it's okay to not know what you're looking at. It's, in my opinion, not okay not to ask.
I see. So I can definitely see the benefits of a owner of the practice as a private practice owner physicians. I can see the benefits. But I hear this billing as an employed physician too. So they go through the little billings and then they say, you should do this and you should document this. Do you see those kind of cases, like helping the physicians to advocate their salaries or compensations as an employed physician? What's the benefits of them to know the billing system?
It's funny. I think, I'm employed in a big healthcare system and I get the employed side of things. And I will actually say that as a physician, and I'm not a productive physician, but I think the conversation is the same. The more a physician becomes a partner with the department, a partner with the hospital and sits down and go, okay, help me understand the billing process, help me understand my coding, help me understand my denials, help me understand how I can be, continue to grow the revenue in the practice. I think the hospital then is going to see that as a benefit to say, hey, we are partners here. Let me show you the data. And I can't speak for everyone. Not all hospital systems are created equal, but I believe that for the most, having that approach of let me help you help, and then you help me, I feel like that's, it's one thing to go and demand what your revenue is that you're bringing in because you're like, well, I just want to see it because I want to make sure I'm paid. I'm getting paid enough. I feel like that approach never goes well, but I feel like if you go and approach it as help me understand my metrics, help me, I want to sit and learn. I want to improve my coding. I want to see my denials. I want to understand how I can change my templates or whatever. And I know, I get it. Like, it's just one more thing that's added to a physician's plate. And I get it. Like, people are more and more stressed by the burden of administration and just practice volumes. So I know that that's not an easy task, and I get what I'm saying may not be possible for everybody, but I think that it's having that mindset of like, I can contribute and I can be a good partner, especially if you're in an employed position and you like that employed position. To me, that's the stance that can help bring everyone together and continue to get the department to grow, and then hopefully that contributes to your salary growth as well.
I think it could be a negotiation factor when, when the administration gives a lot more work to do this and that, then if physicians can review their productivities or the compensations, then maybe they can, get more educated, both side, the hospital side and then the physician side, and then come up with some different ideas that they don't have to continue to see more patients to increase the productivity. So that's a very valid point from both sides of it. So we kind of talked about your business side of it, I kind of curious about your experience as an entrepreneur, like how you get started, what was the challenges, how you overcome those challenges, and how you actually exponentially grow your business so successfully in such a short period of time. Like little, like wisdoms and experience and tips, those kind of things.
Yeah. I would say the number one thing for a business, a
Hmm.
small business, is being able to stay organized. I think whoever you have running your operations has to be able to truly have kind of somebody with some project management skills. And if that's not
Hmm.
you, you need to hire somebody, especially if you're in a
Hmm.
business that's going to gain in volume quickly. Um,
Hmm.
you have to stay organized. You have to stay on top of your emails. You have to know,
Hmm.
who needs what, when, and where. Hiring has always been a challenge, right? I mean, we've made some mistakes and hired some people that, didn't work out. And I think,
Hmm.
hire fast, fire fast. So
I heard about that.
yes, hire fast, fire fast. And
Yeah.
yeah. And like I'm a big person with project plans, meaning, every client has their own project plan. We know exactly what's going on, what issues are pending. So we know who's on point to fix those. We know
Mhm.
like every single thing. And so
Mhm.
if we can, if that can be organized for every single one of our clients, then you don't drop the ball on things. And so
Mm,
organization to me is the number one thing.
I
Hiring
see.
smart is
Mhm.
probably number two. Because if you hire the right people and you can delegate, then you can get things off of your plate and then continue to grow.
Mhm.
So organization and hiring are probably the top two things that I would say. I mean, obviously marketing, is going to be in there and that's important. But I
Mhm.
would say if you can't get hiring and organization done well, then it doesn't really matter how much you market it,
I know you can't follow through the
you
work
can't
that,
do it,
yes,
right?
that's true. Mhm. I
So
see.
that what I would say if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, you're looking to open up a business, you've got to have some mechanism by which to keep track of everything, to keep track of,
Mm,
okay, what are you doing? What are your goals? How are you accomplishing things? Because especially if you're doing multiple things, you'll,
mhm.
if you forget about something and it's not written down somewhere, then you
Yes.
don't want to drop the ball.
I see. So that's a very valid or valuable perspective of having an organization skill for your own business, not just your practice. And also hiring is, I think that's challenging. Well, I guess that's my limiting beliefs. Like, do you feel like when you hire somebody, you need to know exactly what they're supposed to do, or are you in the place where you can hire, overall task they need to complete, but you don't know all the details?
No, I know all the details.
Mm,
I, we have had some people where I've not been in the weeds and they've done a
mm-hmm,
great job. And then
mm-hmm,
we've hired other people who have needed people to be in the weeds and overseeing them. And
mm-hmm.
then stuff doesn't go well and you have to get rid of them quickly.
Yeah.
So that has happened. I mean, and
Okay.
you roll with it, and I think anybody who's had a business knows that that's going to be part of it. Uh,
Yes.
I do think that there has to be someone who's overseeing those employees, someone who knows what
Mm,
they should be doing. Either that
mm-hmm,
or you hire somebody who has that
mm-hmm.
skill set and then they can, manage other,
Delegate. Mm-hmm,
and we do have some of that where we have individuals who are managing other people, which is important,
mm-hmm,
takes that off the shoulders of my husband, and
mm-hmm.
he's not medical. So I mean he has,
Yes,
relied on either myself or
I see.
our billers who are medical, and we hire
Mm-hmm.
very experienced people, 20,
Mm.
25 years of experience,
Oh,
because
wow.
I would rather pay somebody who really knows what they're doing at this stage in our
Mm-hmm,
game, have profits not be great,
mm-hmm,
because at the end of the day, that's not why we went into this, right? And so it's
mm,
how can we build a team of people who are very experienced,
mm-hmm.
and so that, that people get the service that they need.
That's a great point. So I kind of sometimes feel like, I have a coaching business and little things that I do, I know how to do, creating a landing page and the marketings and those things. Now I feel like I can hire somebody, but I guess it's kind of similar in the business. In the beginning, you kind of do a lot of things, and then now you hire somebody else. So I think that's a good thing to know, like a little back end of it. So when the person disappear or whatnot, then you can still run the company at this stage. So I think it's a valid point. I have a question about, I have two things in my mind that I want to ask you. Is one of the thing is, where do you want to go with your current work and the business, like a vision next 3 years, 5 years? I wonder if you have thought about where you want to bring your business to, what's going to be the next vision of that business. And the other question is how you balance you have a full-time job yourself, and then you have this growing business, how you balance that role as an entrepreneur and the leaders in your healthcare system. Those two things are I'm curious.
I can't sit still, so I'm going to start with that. So I just have to keep going. There's a lot of weekend and night stuff when I do need to kind of pitch in for the business side of things. And then for my day job, I love my day job. We've got a good team of people. We've got a good agenda that we're working on, a good purpose that we're helping the hospitals with. So I feel satisfied in both areas. I don't know what will happen. I think our intent right now is just to continue down both avenues. And my husband again has left his job, so he's doing the business full time, and that's been fun to see. And so I don't know, I guess we'll see what happens over the next years, but for now, status quo.
Okay, that sounds great. You know what, that reminds me, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It's like you don't have to know exactly what's going to be like next 2-3 years, not even next year, or 5 years or 10 years. You just continue to take little steps, little by little, and sometimes the business just takes off, and then we have to stay flexible and accommodating with the challenges and changes. I think the entrepreneur spirit right there. We've been talking about for about 20 minutes. I have some closing down our conversations. I wonder if you, as a physician entrepreneur, do you have any advice that who has some ideas and wants to start the business or start going to the journey of the entrepreneurship? What advice would you give?
Action. Just action all the time. I think the more you think, it's important to have a plan to some degree, but you can't spend 2 years planning. I think if you have an idea and you're really passionate about it, you get 30 days to think and then 90 days to make a first action. Like just go. And you may get to that 90 days, start doing things and go, shoot, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And
yes.
Why? Fine, turn back. You will have learned so much in that 90 days just making action. And then you can regroup and come up with a different plan. Like that's okay. I wouldn't do that and sink $100,000 into any idea. But if you're like, okay, I can get in and make some action and try some things with minimal investment and, see how it goes, that's okay. I would say it's where I see people really struggle is they get in their head, right? They say, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Or they say, well, I have to just plan to prevent every single little oopsie daisy that may happen. Where it's like, figure it out. You'll be fine. Like, figure it out. Like, just go, go, go. And the rest will happen. You will be able to troubleshoot. You will be able to figure it out. And so I guess that's my advice is you get 30 days to think about it. Within 90 days, you've got to be starting to make some action and just go and figure it out.
That's a great advice. 30 days to think about it and then actions after that. Because I see many other physicians thinking about something. They keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and not taking enough actions. And they get tired of thinking about it and then give up. Right. I have seen those cases quite often. And also, we in an entrepreneurship journey, we talk about like a fail fast, fail forward. Fail only comes. It's not the bad meaning of the failing. It's more of a trial. And then that kind of sometimes give us a very more clarity what's going to be the next step. So I 100% agree. And I think those are the advice that I need to hear from you too. So thank you so much for sharing. Well, last thing that I would like to ask you too is, let's say there are physicians who are curious about your service and curious about how they can work with you. Where can reach out to you? How they can find you?
Yeah. So a couple things. So we have a free podcast folks can come to if they want to listen to medical billing tips. It's called RevMD. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have a website, nationalrevenueconsulting.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can go there and contact us straight from the website and sign up for our medical billing metric course. It's on there too, which is also free. We just want to help others learn the skills that they need in order to thrive. So would be happy to help anybody, even if it's just education. We just want, again, everybody to gain knowledge and being able to help their practices.
Thank you so much, Dr. Signorelli. I mean, I can hear that your passion that you want to help with the physicians, not just about your business. I think it comes from the passion that you want to help other physicians, and then they get the best out of their practice. So thank you so much for your work, and thanks for sharing your resources today. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.